You want to sign up for an RCQ this Pioneer season, but it's intimidating. Maybe it's your first time going for competitive Magic, maybe it's your first time in an LGS, but you love Pioneer and you want to get into the format in a big way. Well, this video is for you. I just signed up for my first Pioneer RCQ of this season, and I want to take you with me on my journey. You see, I'm pretty new to competitive Magic too. So what we're gonna do together is go through the deck selection process, look at the metagame, and then we're gonna tech the deck for the metagame, and I'll wrap it up with a video after the tournament, kind of do a tournament report, things I learned, what went well, what could have gone better. And remember, the goal isn't necessarily to get the invite. If it happens, that's great. But the goal is to do better this tournament than I did last time. All right, so let's take a look at the deck. So the first part of my preparation process is to figure out what I'm playing. Now, to know this, I need to know a few different things. One is, what do I have? Two is, what am I comfortable with? And three is, what's good? And I'm gonna put a little star next to number 2, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So when I'm trying to figure out what I'm playing, I need to know, what cards do I have? What do I have already built? What do I have on order that's gonna be here? My RCQ is this coming weekend. So we are in week 1 of regular release for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I do already have some cards on pre-order that I have shipping notifications on. Little staples that I thought would be good for this season. And so I take that all into consideration when I'm thinking, what deck do I have right now that's ready to play? What tech do I have coming for that deck? And if I don't have it, is it something that I can acquire before the tournament? Now, the second and probably most important thing is figuring out, what deck am I comfortable with? I, like many of you guys, I have a family, I have a job. I don't spend as much time as I would love to on Magic the Gathering, especially for tournament prep. You know, we always hear about pros, you know, right before the pro tour, they'll lock themselves away in a testing house for a week and learn everything about the metagame. Now, they're professionals, you know, I would expect them to take that seriously. I unfortunately don't have that luxury to lock myself away before competitive Magic events and focus only on testing. So one of my considerations, and probably one of your considerations too, is what deck or deck archetype maybe are you already familiar with? You know, what lines of play do you feel are comfortable for you? For instance, I know of Lotus Field. I have played Lotus Field before. I played against Lotus Field a lot, but I'm not about to pick up that deck a week before the tournament because I'm not fluent. When it comes to competitive Magic, your round timing is so critical. So your comfortability with the deck leads into your ability to find creative ways to win, but also just staying on time. And another thing with Pioneer, one of the reasons why I love the format, is the format itself is so wide open. We saw the last Pro Tour, a deck that had never been seen before won the entire tournament, right? That speaks to me that there is always room for innovation in Pioneer. We're not stuck on the same top 5. So figure out what you're comfortable with, because you will likely do better in the tournament with something that you've already played a lot of than a maybe tier 1 deck that you just 100% neck deck, take to the tournament for the first time, you won't be able to play to the same high caliber as others. So what am I comfortable with? And then 3, there is a consideration for what's good right now. So that involves me taking a look at the metagame, figuring out what decks are positioned in the format and what's winning and why it's winning. All right, and then kind of the filter of these 3 will lead to me picking my personal deck, and I'm going to do that early because the next step in this process is teching the deck for the rest of the meta that I'm not going to play. So I listed out here from left to right aggro, mid-range, control, and combo. So under combo or aggro, I have humans, I have the mono white and Orzhov builds, Atarka red, Gruul vehicles, mono green beats. Mid-range, I have Rakdos vampires, also the classic Rakdos mid-range build if I swap out a few cards. Phoenix and Niv to light. Control, I have Azorius, which is kind of the staple control deck of the meta. I have mono black, I have Dimir. And then combo, I have Lotus Field, I have Fires of Invention, I have Amalia combo, and I have Creativity. So I was fortunate enough to dive in really quickly into Pioneer and grab up as much mana bases as I can. I realize that's not necessarily realistic for everybody, but keep in mind too that I don't have all of these decks built out ready to play. You know, I swap mana bases back and forth, maybe some staple cards back and forth, especially when we talk about decks like Niv to Light or Fires of Invention that have very demanding mana bases. So just when you ask yourself the question, what do I have? Think about first the mana bases, what decks you can support, and then the staple cards to each of these. What shells can you build? And then the teching and the finessing comes next. So first is what do I have? Okay, the second question that we're looking to answer is right here. What am I comfortable with? So going down the list, aggro, I'd say I'm comfortable with humans. I'm just going to circle in black here. I'm comfortable with the Tarka red, with Gruul vehicles, and mono green. The aggro strategy is relatively linear. You ask yourself the question, who is the beatdown? And 9 times out of 10, it's you. You know, humans, Atarka red, get as wide as you possibly can, pump up your creature's attack. Gruul vehicles is kind of big beaters with creature control. And then mono green does the big dumb green creature thing, right? Not to insult anyone that loves mono green. It's great. It used to be my favorite deck before Karn got banned. Next is the mid-range strategy. Rakdos Vampires is a better version of the old mid-range from last season. And that was a deck that I piloted a lot, followed through to the first Pioneer Pro Tour. I luckily had the Sorens already and ordered the Vein Rippers before the Pro Tour deck came out because I thought the card was good. Turns out the card is good. So I have all the cards for that, and I just started playing it. It's a really easy deck to understand if you can get it. Phoenix, I'm so on. There are, you know, a lot of people, you know, dog on Phoenix as being the deck that, okay, I cast a cantrip to draw another cantrip, and then I'll play another cantrip to cast another cantrip, and then look, I have a Phoenix. But there are a lot of micro decisions that you need as a Phoenix player to make the right moves at the right time with regard to your graveyard and your resource management. I took Phoenix to 1 LGS Pioneer night, and I timed out of 2 rounds. I had 2 draws. So that tells me as a Phoenix player, I'm not where I need to be yet as far as reps and sets to be fluent enough to take that to a competitive setting. And then Niv to Light is kind of the Yoran is a companion, Niv Mizzet Reborn, and Omnath with Bring to Light, and a bunch of just, it's a good cards pile. I wish I were fluent in that language. I am not. I couldn't tell you what I'm looking for when I'm searching through my deck, or what cards to cast in what sequence. I have the cards for it. Hopefully later this season I'll be able to bring that out, but neither of these two I would say I am comfortable enough with in order to play. Now, in the control match, I would say also from last season, I have enough metagame knowledge that I can play Azorius control. Mono black is that waste knot deck. Some call it mono black mid-range. It's really a mono black control. You're disrupting the hand the entire time and try to value off of discard. Again, a lot of micro decisions there. I think it's a great deck. I'm excited to learn it. I'm not there yet. And then Dimir Control are cards that I put together from you know, the blue-white and the mono-black deck, as well as some of these mid-range decks. Gabe Nassif pilots it a lot. I think it's really effective because Pioneer is a turn creature sideways format. I'm expecting to see it at the RCQ. I'm not good enough to play it, at least in terms of familiarity. Now over on the combo side, Lotus Field, I'm not going to touch that with the 10-foot pole. It's just not my play style, as you could probably tell. I'm super familiar with aggro. I really like doing the creature combat step thing. And then mid-range control, I can play if I want. Lotus Field is not even a little bit. Fires of Invention, another tools deck. I can do well with it if I have unlimited time. I think I would equate Fires for me the same way that I think about Phoenix. I am just not fluent enough to make it good. Amalia combo is something that I picked up right in November, right after Ixalan, when Amalia was printed. And that's a deck that I put together right away, started playing it on Explorer, on Arena, playing it in paper, and iterating off of it. I would say I'm extremely fluent on all the lines with Amalia. And then creativity, if you asked me 6 months ago, can I play creativity, I would have circled, if I'm comfortable with it, I would have circled that deck. Again, that was one of those after the Pro Tour when Reed Duke took it all away with the Is It Creativity build. I copied that build, played it a little bit the last Pioneer RCQ season, and Xenagos World Spine Worm makes sense. Now there are tons of different iterations on that deck, and I don't think I've kept up enough with it to play comfortable this Pioneer RCQ season. So the last question for us to figure out what deck should I play at next weekend's RCQ is to figure out what's good. And so for this, JJ and I, as you've probably seen on the podcast, keep our own metagame tracker. But I want to use a tool that's available to everybody. So for this, I chose mtgmeta.io. I will link the website in the description, which is a data aggregation website for MTG tournament data. So it'll pull directly from websites that provide reporting, as well as from internally within the community. So I took a look at the decks that I was familiar with, and here's what we got. So over on the aggro side, humans had a 44% win rate. Gruul Red and Gruul Vehicles were both at 48%. Mono Green wasn't even listed, and this is data, mind you, from post-ban, so December 2023 to April 2024. Rakdos Vamps was at 51%, Azorius Control at 57%, and Amalia at 56%. So here I just listed what they had as tier 1 of the metagame for Pioneer. Fires of Invention and Enigmatic Incarnation at 59%, again, Azorius, Amalia. Phoenix is at 52%, and Rakdos Vamps is coming in at 51. So as taking a look at tier 1, we have Rakdos Vamps, we have Control, and we have Amalia. And the reason that is, in my opinion, is the Amalia combo deck really turned off most of your aggro, especially the go wide aggro. Amalia just could blow up the board and end the game, and aggro wasn't interactive enough to disrupt the Amalia combo. With the exception of Boros Heroic. Boros Heroic has a phenomenal matchup against Amalia due to the indestructible spells. Now, Control, I think, is holding its spot in tier 1 because of Amalia. That said, I'm not a huge fan of playing Control. I like to be proactive. I like to, advance my board state and put pressure on the opponent. So that really takes us down to Rakdos Vampires and Amalia for my personal choice. Now, Rakdos Vampires actually, one of its only unfavorable matchup is against Amalia combo. And for that reason, I think we have our winner. We will choose Amalia for next weekend's RCQ. So next step is teching the deck for the metagame. And to do that, we're gonna look at some weaknesses, some good matchups that I don't have to worry about, and some bad matchups. And we'll draw that out here, and then we will circle back into deck building. So next step is deck tech. So you've chosen the deck that you want to play at your local RCQ, and now you're wondering, how do I build the deck? Do I just rip a list off the internet to include the sideboard? I mean, that's an option. But what I want to take you through is the questions you need to ask yourself in order to build the most efficient form of the deck for a competitive environment. So going back to our example, we chose the Amalia combo deck as the deck most fitting for me for my first RCQ of this Pioneer season. So I know at the core of this deck are Collected Companies or Knight Errants of Eos, Return to the Ranks, Court of Calling, and then of course the combo itself, which is Amalia, Wildgrowth Walker, and then some combination of life gainers, whether that's Lunarch Veteran or food tokens off of Gilded Goose, or the little treasure maker, I can't remember his name. So I know there's a deck core, and then everything around that is really the home brewing part. And my favorite deck brewer, actually Patrick Chapin, he said, a deck that isn't at least 50% net deck has no brains. A deck that isn't at least 50% homebrew's got no heart. So take that as you will. There's nothing wrong with just net decking. Like I said, today in Magic, decks and metagames evolve so quickly that it's almost impossible to keep up with. And it behooves you to look at some of the efficiencies that other people have found that maybe have more time than you or I to play test, and then implement that and add to it as you see fit. So the first question I ask when I'm trying to figure out what my deck is actually going to look like is, what do my matchups look like in the metagame? So I wrote down some of the decks that I expect to see, the most popular being Rakdos Vampires, and part of the reason that we chose Amalia over Rakdos Vampires is because we're slightly favored. Second is Control. I have two down arrows right here. The little blue markings to the right of the deck name kind of indicate where Amalia sits relative to these decks. I wrote two down arrows because we're highly unfavored. That's a match characterized by very risky and complicated gameplay, you know, with critical turns at turn 4 and 5, where I'm looking to combo off only when the combo or the control player gives me the window of opportunity to do so. So it's a lot of reactive gameplay, which is counterintuitive from our part, to make all of their counter spells dead in hand, essentially. Phoenix actually has a relatively equal matchup all the way up until the point that I start gaining life. All of their removal is damage based, so good luck dealing with the 21-21 Amalia. That said, until I get to that point, my creatures are under threat. Next we have the Amalia matchup, the mirror matchup, that is. And that consideration is either one, who can combo first, or two, who can stop combo first via stopping the other person from gaining life. So that's a grind. Then Lotus Field and Fires of Invention both fall under the same umbrella of it's a race. Typically, as an Amalia player, I can combo off faster than they can, but they have inevitability. So if left untouched, that Lotus Field player will win. Same thing with Fires. If I don't take their life down to 0 before they have an opportunity to start bringing out whatever enchantment they want from their toolbox deck, then it doesn't look good for me. So again, first thing I do, I identify the core of the deck, then I take a look at some of the popular matchups and see where our deck plays against it. So I broke it down even a little bit further here. So my favorite matchups are Rakdos, Lotus, and Fires. Again, I hope I see only those things, and then it'll be a great RCQ for me. I'm highly unfavored against blue-white control. So I, as an Amalia player this weekend, am liking the fact that I take a look at the metagame and I'm seeing Azorius control get pushed out of the meta, because that is a bad matchup for me. Now, that's the specific, this case, right? On Always Choose Violence MTG, I always want to talk about strategy and theory. That's what we're about. I am an average Magic the Gathering player, probably like you, and I'm trying to get better. So I want to take you through thought processes, theories, and strategies on how to do that. If you're getting any value, I threw our Instagram down here, Always Choose Violence MTG. Just you watching this video, hitting subscribe or following us on Instagram does a ton to help me out and let me know what kind of content you like. So again, we did the specific of this deck in this metagame in this format. But in reality, I want to zoom back out so that you can apply this process to when you're getting ready to play in a tournament. So what I did, picked a deck, compared the matchups, identified the core of that deck, and then I took a look at the matchups, and this is the new part. I took a look at the matchups to figure out what are the threats that may either make a matchup highly unfavorable, or in a slightly favored matchup, what could cause me to lose. So counter core is my primary threat. And that is directly related to what Azorius control or any other control deck could do, is they could take a look at, or they also, knowing the metagame, can be waiting for a Collected Company or a Return to the Rings or a Court of Calling, and be holding up a counter spell to that very pivotal moment in the game where I go for a combo and they're able to swing momentum and gain tempo by essentially making me waste a turn, right? So counter the core, right? The second thing that I'm concerned with, specifically with Amalia, is creature removal. Rakdos in particular, it has access to the best versions of this. In Fatal Push, Long Goodbye, Slice from the Shadows, you name it, we're always printing brand new black and red removal, right? So say I have a Wild Growth Walker or an Amalia and a Life Gainer, and then I have my last combo piece and I cast it and I'm capped out. I don't have any protection. The thing that I'm worried about the most is with that cast on the stack before my combo can go off, they pay 3 life and Fatal Push Amalia, or they Fatal Push Wild Growth Walker, or they cut down either of them. That creature removal is just as crippling as countering the core in the fact that it's a hard stop on this combo, which will make me reevaluate the game and potentially switch tempo over to opponent. The last thing that I'm kind of concerned about, you always keep it in the back of your head, is burn before combo. This could be in the literal sense, when you're playing against a mono red deck, that they take your life down to 0 before you have a chance to gain any life. Or this is also applicable to the mirror. If they combo before you combo, they're going to take your life down, they're going to take your creatures, they're going to burn you before you combo. So this is a fast deck. This is a deck that can win on turn 3 if the stars align, but variance is a part of Magic the Gathering. So one of the things that I have to acknowledge is I can't control what my first 7 cards are, what my mull to 6 will be, what my mull to 5 will be. Obviously, with this deck, I am not afraid to go down to 5, whether I'm on the play or on the draw, in favor of having a hand that will help me get to the combo faster because of this reason. I'll tell you a story at a recent Pioneer night at an LGS. I had 2 of the same matchups that went very differently. And it was against Lotus Field, which I'm slightly favored against. So this was when I was newer to playing Amalia combo. My first match against the Lotus Field player, 2-0 in about 20 minutes. We had 30 minutes left in the round to reevaluate. To me, that was like, oh wow, Lotus Field game is just, or Lotus Field match is just free points for me. What I didn't recognize was actually how fortunate I was with my opening hand in game 1 and my mulligan decision in game 2 to undercut the Lotus Field player, stopping their inevitability before they even had a chance to combo off. In the finals of that same tournament, I had Lotus play. I was playing up against another Lotus Field player. And I sat down and I remembered the hubris come up inside of me thinking, oh, this is free points. I'm going to get myself an extra pack. No problem. Well, we went to game 3. And that is because on game 1, I didn't mulligan when I was supposed to mulligan. Game 2, I won by turn 3. And then game 3, when I thought, on the draw, yeah, it's a Lotus Field player. Yeah, we're post board, but I got this. I didn't keep my mulligan discipline. And like I said, with Lotus Field and Fires, they have inevitability and they pop off. So burn before combo is real. There's a very real possibility that when I'm playing this particular deck, that my opponent is going to be able to do their thing before I get to do the thing, which would be bad for me. So again, in review, what we did was we asked ourselves what we're going to play, and we figured that out by assessing what cards do I have, what am I comfortable with, and what's good. That led me to Amalia combo. All right. My next question is, how do I tech this deck to play against the meta? And in order to do that, we laid out some of the more popular decks I'm expecting to face, took a look at what our matches are against them, slightly favored, highly unfavored, equal, mirror, etc. I identified what the core of my deck is, and then I did a little pattern analysis of the decks that I'm equal to or unfavored against. I asked why, and I identified the threats to my core, which are counter core, literally countering any of the core spells, creature removal on my combo, or getting burned before I get to combo. So next, knowing all of this information, we are ready to physically put together the cards and make our RCQ deck, which is what I'm going to do next. So here it is. The deck's all built. Now, the purpose of this video is about process, right? Going from signing up for an RCQ, picking a deck, understanding why you picked that deck, and then building the deck for the tournament. So before we get into the deck itself, let's cue the deck building montage.
All right, folks, that wraps up our journey through the deck selection process for competitive Magic tournaments. Thanks for joining Navigator today as we sifted through possibilities, discussed theory, refined our strategies, and began the exciting process of deck brewing. This week, Navigator will be rigorously testing his chosen build, tweaking and tuning to perfect our approach for the competitive scene. Stay tuned because after the tournament, he'll be back with a full deck tech and tournament report. We'll dive into what worked, what didn't, and how the deck performed in the heat of battle. I hope today's session provides you with the insights needed to start brewing your own competitive decks. Remember, it's not just about the cards, it's about the community and the thrill of the game. So keep experimenting, keep playing, and most importantly, keep having fun. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends, and follow us on Instagram at @alwayschoosviolencemt for more behind-the-scenes content and updates. Your support helps us bring more magic to this channel. See you after the tournament, and may your draws be ever in your favor.